So again, if I can keep things charged, you guys can keep things charged. All right. Now, again, for today, let me find our worksheet. Here we go. All right, let's just talk about this just to make sure you remember. B to the 4th times b cubed is what? B to the what?
7.
B to the 7th. Thank you very much.
That's a 4. That's only 1.
Okay. So it's a bad worksheet. So it doesn't matter. If you thought it was a 1, then it's a 4. It really doesn't matter. All right. Now on number 3, let's make sure you see this. This is a, what do you think that is, guys? All right, I think it's a -1. So if you think it's something different, that's okay. It's -1 and -3, so that means it's a to the what? A to the -4, right? Now remember, with negative exponents, you have to move them. Is that agreed? So this is the same as 1 over a to the 4th. Anybody have any issues with that? All right. Now, number 5. This would be 4x squared times 16y squared, which is what? 64x squared y squared. Is everybody happy with that? All right. Now this is, I don't know why it did that, but that's 10x squared y cubed. And this, yeah, I don't know what happened to mine, but let's make that to the 8th power. Just change that to the 8th. Sorry about that, I don't know what happened. So then we have what? 100x to the what? And y to the 11th. Very good. And then just let me write this one.
Wait, how did you get x to the
Go ahead.
How'd you get x to the
Because remember, there's a 1 there.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? All right, no. That's going to be, let me do it. 6 u to the 4th. I have no idea what that is, so I'm just going to make a problem up. V w to the 8th. Just write that down. It doesn't matter what it is. Over 36 u cubed v squared w to the 8th. I just want it like that. So again, sorry about that. Shh, I'm told you. I don't care what the problem is. For whatever reason, it didn't print right. I don't know why. All right? So now, we're reducing this fraction. All right, so 6 over 36 reduces to what?
6.
Wait a minute, I'm asking what 6 over 36? Yeah, so everybody writes down 1 over 6. And then remember there's 4 u's up top and 3 on the bottom, so that gives you 1. Where at? At the top, right? So remember, you think of it as 4 on top, 3 on the bottom, so you cancel 3. And then 1 v on top and 2 on the bottom. 1 v on the bottom. And then what happens to the w's? They cancel. It's a good little review. Okay? Now, reviewing addition, so that would just be what, guys? Wait a minute.
3g plus 12.
Good job, 3g plus 12. Now we're adding again.
3x
Go ahead. 3x squared.
Plus 4x minus 5.
Beautiful. Now distribute, what do I get?
Plus 5.
That's good. Okay. Now, for 17, remember you have to write a minus 5 times a minus 5. So that was a squared minus 5a plus 25, because remember we did the smiley faces. We talked about that a bunch last week. So that's a squared minus 10a plus 25. And then 19. What's r times r?
R squared.
Now, how many is that? Negative 2RT. And this is positive 2RT. So what happens? And so then it would be minus 4T squared. Everybody okay with that? All right. Same here. 3 times 3. Negative 6b, positive 6b, and then it would be, all right, I'm pretty happy with you. Okay, so now, factoring completely generally just means factoring twice. All right, factoring twice. All right. Now, I want everybody to look up here, and I want everybody to highlight 3x cubed and 12x. Do they have anything in common right off the bat? They're divisible by 3 and by very smart. All right, so we're undoing the distributive property first. It's called factoring out the common factor. Now, what I usually tell my kids is that there's like 2 buckets here. All right, this bucket here and this bucket here. And what's in both buckets? 3x. Is everybody okay with that? Right? So in this bucket we have 3 times x times x times x. Over here we have 3 times 4 times x. Is everybody with me? I'm actually removing what? The 3x from each bucket. Everybody agree with that? So I pull out the 3x from each bucket. And what's left behind? Nope. What's left in this bucket? X squared. Minus what's left in the other bucket? 4. Everybody see that? All right. So that's pulling out the greatest common factor. You're pulling out the greatest common factor. Now, does anybody recognize x squared minus 4? Now, that you should remember from Friday, which we agreed was kind of easy. That factors. What is x squared minus 4 factor? Somebody tell me.
Is it x minus 2 and x plus 2?
Wow. X plus 2 and x minus 2. Everybody happy with that explanation? Everybody good? All right. So you're factoring out anything that's common. All right. So it's going to take me some time. So looking here, is there a number that's common? 3. Is there a variable that's common? Question.
Yes.
Is there a common x? No, because there isn't an x on the what? In the third bucket. Everybody agree with me? So the only thing we can pull out is a 3. All right? Now, when you're pulling numbers out, you divide. When you're pulling numbers out, you divide. So what is 3 divided by 3?
1.
Good. What's 6 divided by 3?
2.
And what's 3 divided by 3?
1.
Everybody happy with that?
Yeah, I get it.
Not a bad thing. Now, I said factoring completely, which now means we're going to factor the inner parentheses. All right, so now you're going to highlight this, and we're going to say, okay, that should be able to factor. All right, so let's put down 2 sets of parentheses. What's the only way to make x squared?
X plus 2.
What's the only way to make y squared? And they both have to be what? Positive. Because we want 2xy, right? 1xy plus 1xy is 2xy. You agree with that?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you get to advanced math, you would just say that's 3 times x plus y squared. Do I make kids do that? No, because it's the same. Okay, let's look at 5. All right, for those guys who are paying attention, I want someone to try to tell me what's common. 2 and, is everybody agreeing? 2 and x. Now remember, what I'm trying to tell you guys, for those of you guys who are trying to do better, is you're trying to say it before everybody else. All right, and again, I think it was helpful to think in terms of buckets. There's a common 2 in the bucket and a common what? X. All right, now, again, if you want to, you can say I divide numbers and I subtract exponents. Everybody hear me? I divide numbers and subtract exponents. So what's 2 divided by 2?
1.
If there were 3 and I take out 1, that leaves x squared. 10 divided by 2? Negative 5. X minus. All right, guys, I'm telling you it's not that hard. It's really not hard. Okay? And again, I'm trying to tell kids all the time, graphing is probably the most important, and then after graphing is factoring. The 2 things that you will be doing until you quit your math career. All right? You have to understand this. All right? So speak up now. There were 3. I pulled 1 out. So that left me with 2. You agree with that? Well, because there is a common x in every bucket. Right? There's 3 x's, then 2 x's, then 1 x. You agree with that? Okay. Now I have to factor, which was last week. Okay? So how does that factor into? Somebody tell me. X and x. And then say it. 4 and 9. And the 4 is?
Positive.
And the 9 is negative.
Where'd you get 4 and 9?
Because the factors of 36 that make 5. So remember, the factors of 36, 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. The only one that make 5. Remember that now?
Yeah.
Very, very important. Good for you.
Okay, so just what I don't get is like, you know, it's like it went from like negative 10x squared to like negative 5x. Like, where's the square go?
Okay, so in this bucket, listen to me. In this bucket was 2 times x times x times x. In this bucket, it was 2 times 5 times x times x. In this bucket, it was 2 times 36 times x. I pulled out a common x.
Oh, okay.
You with me?
Yeah.
And then I pulled out the common what?
The 2.
I pulled out the common 2. And when I did that, now you see, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very important. I really like the iPad because it demonstrates that kind of nicely. All right, and then it just leaves what's behind in the bucket. All right, but again, the rule, divide numbers, subtract exponents. All right, when you're factoring out the GCF.
Why is it 36 not having x?
Because we pulled it out. Do you agree? There was a common x, right or not? Come on now.
Yeah.
You sure? Okay. So let's check out the next one. All right. Now, here's a brand new technique. All right. So above this, I want you to say factor by grouping. And then some of my kids say, well, how do I remember all the different styles? Well, here's what I want you to do. You know it's factoring by grouping when there are 4 terms. You know it's factoring by grouping when it's 4 terms. All right? So in this case right here, I put a parentheses here, a parentheses here, a parentheses here, and a parentheses here. Everybody agree with that? Now, you do common factors. All right? So again, if I'm just specifically looking at this right here, what's common? A. So now we're going to write down A. And then what's left behind? 2 plus B. All right? Now, thank you, James. What's common? Now, listen, the way kids make mistakes on here is they forget to tell me what kind of C. It is a what? Positive C. So I want you to put a plus C, and then what's left behind? 2 plus B. All right, now, again, we said we're factoring twice today. So now what I want you to do is I'm going to look at this right here as a bucket, and I'm going to look at this as a bucket. What's common in the two buckets? Not 2 and B, but 2 plus B. Okay? So 2 plus B, I'm pulling out of each bucket. And what's left behind?
A plus C.
A plus C.
A plus C. Again, that's it. All right? Factoring by grouping. All right? You're going to recognize factoring by grouping when you have 4 terms. All right? When you have 4 terms. All right? Now, when the leading coefficient is negative, you're going to factor out a negative. When the leading coefficient is negative, you're going to factor out a negative. All right? So what's common with 12, 30, and 18? Negative what? Negative what?
Negative.
-6.
I think negative 6. And how many x's can I pull out? 1. Now, someone said something interesting. Yes, negative 3 is also works. But is it the greatest? No. All right, so we're always searching for the greatest common factor. All right, now remember you divide numbers and subtract exponents. So if I divide 12 by 6, I get what? 2x squared, and then it would be what? Be careful here. What? Say it, Freddie. And then what? Minus 3. Now, this factoring problem is said to be really hard because there are 2 possibilities, but what? One answer. 2 possibilities, but 1 answer. All right? So again, we bring down the negative 6x. We open 2 sets of parentheses. Now, the only way to make 2x squared is 2x and x. Now it's a matter of where do you put the 3. Let me just put it in the wrong spot just to review with you. All right? I'm going to put 3 here and 1 here, which makes that 3 and 2, which makes what? If they're both what? If they're both negative, because we want negative 5. Now that looks like the right answer. However, this right here has to be what? Negative 3. And right now it would be what? Positive 3. So I understand that now. If you want to understand factoring, you have to understand that problem. Do you understand why that's not the right answer?
Wait, so, well, like, isn't it negative 3?
And negative 2 makes negative 5, right?
Yeah.
But you're right, that's a negative 3, so you can't have a negative times a negative,
Oh, yeah.
right? So what am I trying to tell you? The 3 and the 1 have to change. So if I put the 3 over here and the 1 over here, now I have 6 and 1, which makes negative 5 if it's negative 3 and positive 1. Does that make sense now? All right, so number 11, what's common? 3, nice. So 3 parentheses, what am I left with? Beautiful. Now we're just doing 2 sets of parentheses. Good job. Where does the 2 have to go?
On the left or right.
On the right. Does everybody agree with that? Because That makes 4 and 1 plus plus. Listen, guys, this has got to be personal now. I mean, what I'm saying, you have to know if you got it. And you should know because you can check your answer real quick, and it's a guaranteed 100. All right? Everybody good with that? All right, here we go. What's common with 20, 36, and 8? 4x. Thank you very much. So I'm left with, keep going, and then minus 2, right? Michael, you good? Okay, so Michael, you cannot wait until we get too far before you start telling me, man. That's what I'm saying. I don't like.
I get it. I just like somehow.
Takes a little time. All right. So in this case, 2 sets of parentheses. So 5x and x, and 2 has to go on the right because we want that to be 10. So then I want it to be negative, right? Nice. Negative. Like that, right? Nice. All right. Now, is there anything common with number 15? Now, the reason why I put that in there sometimes is because you don't always have to factor completely, and you have to know the difference. So the point is you always try to see if there's anything common first. That's your first step. Okay, since there's nothing common here. Now, is it going to be 2 and 2 or 4 and 1? I normally say start with 2 and 2, but I want it to be 5. So 4 and 1 makes what? 5. So hopefully you're getting better at that. So this now becomes 4x and x, 1 and 1, and they're both what?
Negative.
And they're both negative. Yes. Yep. You understand that, right? All right, now how many terms do we have here? 4, so it's what? Factoring by grouping. All right, factoring by grouping. All right, now you need to put a little star by this. Notice how I'm grouping. What's common? X. What's left behind? Okay, now I need to hear me. You listening? Whatever this is right here, whatever sign, you factor that sign out. So there would be, you would factor out a what? -3. You would factor out a -3. Now when you factor out a negative, what happens to all the signs? They change. So it becomes beautiful. Now, you know you've done it correctly if, hear me, you know you've done it correctly if the thing in parentheses is the same. You've not done it correctly if what's in the parentheses is not the same. Everybody hear me? So, what's common in the bucket?
1c,
And what was left behind?
x minus 3.
Look how simple, guys. Everybody good with that? Yes. Show me how I did what? This part right here? Okay, so now watch what I'm doing. I love iPad for this reason. Watch me. That was common, so I pulled it out. What was left behind? X minus 3. You see that? Right? All right, here we go. What's common in 19? X. Everybody happy with that? Okay. Does 2x squared minus 5x minus 1, does that factor anymore?
No.
No. Hear me? Doesn't always. Everybody get me? All right. So this right here is the what? That's the answer. All right, because there's no factors of 2 that are going to make 5.
So wait, wouldn't it just be 2x squared minus 5x?
No, because remember, you're dividing numbers. So essentially, I factored out a 1x. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. 5 divided by 1 is 5. 1 divided by 1 is 1.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very important. All right, 21, what's common? What's common? X squared, right? There's x squared. So x squared. 4x squared plus 17x minus 15. Yes.
I
What?
don't understand why x squared.
Well, how many x's are in this bucket? How many here? How many here? I could take out 1x, but I could also take out what? 2, because there's 2 in each bucket. Can I take out 3? No, because there's only 2 in one bucket. All right, now we're factoring. All right, so again, x squared, 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to go with 2x and 2x, and then 5 and 3. 7 and 6. That doesn't work, does it? So now I'm going to erase. 5 here, 3 there. Does that work? No. Does everybody agree? So now what I need to do is, we could try 15 and 1, but you should be pretty easy. That doesn't really work, right? Because 15 times 2 would be 30. All right, too much. All right, so now we have to kind of start over, which is the annoying part. That's why kids don't do well, is because they're not patient. All right, we got to do 4x and x. Now 5 and 3. Smiley face. What do you know? 20 and 3 makes 17 if the 5 is what?
Positive.
We want it to be positive, and the 3 what? Everybody good with that? All right, let's carry on. What's common with 16, 12, and 18?
What is it to 18?
Negative 2, right?
Oh.
The leading coefficient is negative. We're going to pull out a negative. All right, so when I pull out negative 2, I end up with all right, so here we go, negative 2. 4x and 2x. I start with 3 and 3. Looking at my smiley faces, which worked out nicely, because that's what? 6 and 12. And I want the 12 to be what? And the 6 to be negative. Am I pretty good with that? All right, so let's take a look at 25. Factoring by what? Everybody happy with that? Factoring by grouping. What's common? Just x squared. That's okay. X squared. What's left behind? 2x minus 1. What's common? A negative 2. Thank you very much. And what's left behind? Now that's a little bit tricky when you factor out a negative. So I always tell kids when you factor out a negative, you change the sign. Right, Allie? Now, what's common? And I'm left with, everybody agree with that? Yes.
So just because there's a negative 4x makes like 2 negative?
Yes. Whatever this sign is right here is what I was trying to tell you. You factor out that negative.
Then, since you said
they're always going to match. Is that
They always match.
So if you already have the first one, can you just write down?
Yes, but the reason why you have to be careful that you factor out the negative. All right, you're 100% correct. All right, here we go. So let's look at 27, 4 terms again. What's common? Y. So you're left with, and what's common on the other one? -2. Good job, guys. So I'm left with, right? And then what's common? And what's left behind? Very, very good.
Why would it be positive 2?
Because there's a leading coefficient that's negative. All right. X to the 4th minus 81. Hard problem, new type. You'll see why. X to the 4th minus 81 factors to what? X squared plus 9 and x squared minus 9. That was from last week. However, now you get to look at x squared minus 9. That can factor. Can x squared plus 9 factor? No, because it's plus. All right? So we're going to go x squared plus 9, x plus 3, x minus 3. Everybody hearing me?
Oh,
X squared plus 9. Is that us?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to me. Stop, 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 and listen. All right. What I want you to do, listen, please, guys. I mean this. I would feel better if you just finished the odds, right, which isn't much. Well, actually, I don't want you to do that. Listen, I want everybody tonight to redo the problems we did. Is everybody hearing me? I think it would be better if you look those over and look at and go down just like we did in class and make sure you see that. Is everybody hearing me? All right, so tomorrow I will pick up with question number 31. No extra. Just redo those problems and make sure you understand them completely. I'll get with you guys who I told you to do something at lunch. See me at lunch.